Welcome to Lesson 7 in Unit 6, Mastering Mimicry. In this lesson, students will work to answer the question, how can we use inspiration from plant parts to design a campsite solution? In this lesson, students apply their learning throughout the unit to complete an engineering challenge. They work in teams to develop and test a stable campsite inspired by plant parts. They present their biomimicry campsite solutions. Students figure out plant parts can be used as inspiration to design a stable campsite solution. Tent stakes can be designed using inspiration from roots, and tent fabric can be designed using inspiration from leaves. Students make connections to the storyline by finalizing and presenting their engineering solutions to the campsite problem. There are several opportunities for ELA cross-curricular connections throughout the lesson. You can look for specific standard connections in the Unit 6 Teacher Guide. This lesson will take approximately 5 days to complete. You'll start the engage portion of the lesson by reminding students of the anchoring problem of tents at a campsite being rained on, blown over by wind, and visited by animals, and using inspiration from nature to design a better campsite. You'll display the engineering design cycle and remind students of the engineering design cycle and their progress towards solving the problem. You'll put students in their engineering teams and have them review the models they drew at the end of Lesson 6. You'll then revisit the driving question board to highlight questions connected to the learning goals of this lesson by calling attention to questions about using inspiration from plants to help solve the campsite problem. For the Explore portion, you'll set up the campsite solution investigation. This investigation has 2 parts in the Explore. Part 1, Tent Stakes, and Part 2, Tent. Use the campsite solution investigation instructions to prepare the materials and carry out the investigations. Students must complete the Tent Stakes investigation before they can build and test their tent solutions. You'll have students use their tent stakes datasheet student journal page to draw their observations about the shape of the tent stake and its function from Part 1 of the investigation. For Part 2, student teams will work together to use the materials and build a campsite solution based on their ideas for the Campsite Biomimicry Solution Ideas student journal page. You'll use the campsite solution investigation instructions to prepare the materials and carry out the investigation. You'll have students use their campsite datasheet student journal page to record their observations as data from testing their solutions. In the Explain portion of the lesson, students will engage in a class discussion to share their findings from the campsite design solutions. Use the provided questions to guide your discussion around the question, how can we use inspiration from plant parts to design a campsite solution? The goal of this class discussion is to analyze and compare how students use the materials to design their solutions and to compare what worked or didn't work in their designs. You will use the discussion to create the Lesson 7 summary chart. From the discussion, students should understand that tents could be designed like plants to better protect from wind, rain, and animals. For the Elaborate portion, you'll hold a class gallery walk so students can see all of the final solutions. You'll have them use the peer feedback table tent to identify one thing they like, one question they have, and one suggestion they have about classmates' solutions. For the Evaluate portion, you'll have students draw their final models and answer the questions on the Campsite Biomimicry Solutions student journal pages. You'll have students use the Biomimicry Rubric student journal page to self-evaluate their solutions. You'll then invite students to gather in a circle to review what they've learned about plants and their structures and how humans can use them as inspiration during their time as engineers. The goal of this class discussion is for teams to revisit the learning throughout the unit and to wrap up the unit. To support student sense-making across the unit, orient them back to the driving question board. Ask, did we answer any of the questions on our driving question board? Do we have any questions to add to our driving question board? If there are questions that have been answered, remove them from the driving question board and place them on the summary chart. Be sure to see the noted opportunity to attend to equity. Have students use the self-check form to evaluate their own learning in this section. This is an instructional tool that can be used as a metacognitive practice for students to reflect on their learning, express their engagement or excitement levels for the topics they have learned, and reflect on their science identities and community. By the end of this lesson, students will have developed and tested a stable campsite solution inspired by nature, and updated and presented final campsite solutions based on evidence of their function from testing. For more information about this unit, visit myscipartners.com.